We are going to be doing the presentation for the AEC Collections Update for Building. And today our presenter will be Eugene O'Day, the 9th. Here you go, Eugene.
Thanks, Katana. Let me get my screen going for everybody. And Katana, do you see my screen?
Yep, looks good.
Excellent. Well, good morning and good afternoon to everybody on a happy, somewhat cloudy day in Portland, Oregon. My name is Eugene O'Day. As Katana said, I am the West Coast Regional Manager for the building side and the techs. My background is architectural and structural. I have a couple of certifications, as you see on there, from Autodesk and other places. I've been in the industry for 28 plus years. I've been working with AutoCAD and AutoCAD flavors since release 1.4. And then for Revit, since Autodesk purchased Revit back in the 2002 timeframe. So our agenda today, I did some little massaging of the bullet points that you all logged into. Just make it a little bit more user-friendly, if you will. We're going to be looking at, first off, a product list that is included, all the products that are included into the Autodesk AEC collections, just to give you an idea of what the breadth of that is. And then we'll get into some review of the new features for 2020 of those products. We'll get into the licensing at the very end for the products, and then we'll open it up for some Q&A. So we're going to start off with the collections and what they are. So it's roughly about 25 products / services, and when we say services, that would be like rendering to the cloud as part of that service and so forth. What we would consider to be the hero products or the top products that people use out of the collections would be Revit, and again, Revit's going to be for your building design. That's your BIM tool. Then you have Civil 3D, which is going to be the BIM tool in the civil engineering side. And of course, then we have AutoCAD. And AutoCAD has so many different flavors to it, and part of the collections is you get all those flavors. So anywhere from our AutoCAD architecture all the way down to Raster design, Plant 3D, MEP, mechanical, and all of those. Additional to that, you're going to get InfraWorks, Navisworks Manage, 3D Studio Max, Recap Pro, Advanced Steel, Fabrication. If you're not familiar with the Advanced Steel is, sorry, I got something right in the middle of my screen. Advanced Steel is an AutoCAD-based software for detailing of steel, structural steel, and they have automation tools to help create fabrication drawings, bill of materials, and so forth. And it actually kind of works within that Revit structural side of things as well. InfraWorks is a planning and design platform that enables you to quickly and easily convey preliminary design intent in a real-world contextual environment. It's very cool. Of course, Navisworks Manage is going to be that tool for our class detections. So bringing in those models, and it doesn't really matter if it's an AutoCAD 3D model, Revit, anything basically 3D allow you to do class detections and timelines too. 3D Studio Max, if you're not aware of that one, that's basically gaming and videos, video games, movies. But in our industry, we would also use it for high-end rendering, and we would also use it for light analysis in a Revit model. Then we have Insight. Insight is for our building energy model. So we basically would export this out to Insight from Revit and do some analysis on that to help create better buildings and so forth. Dynamo, I look at Dynamo Studios as kind of like, for those people who are familiar with AutoCAD, it's kind of the Lisp of Revit, even though it's not really Lisp. Lisp is a programming tool that's really just based inside of AutoCAD to help you customize and do routines and so forth, where Dynamo Studios is a computational design tool that helps you run animations and run things within inside of Revit to be more productive. Formit is going to be the collaboration tool for early design. That's going to be your massing tool for that. And there's so much other ones I didn't get into, but we're gonna pop over to some of the highlight features of what's new. So, oops, let me go back here real quickly here. Right down at the bottom here of the web page is a link that will get you into the product page. Let me launch that for you. And here's all of the different other products I didn't get into with descriptions and stuff, so you can always go link into that and see what's going on with those. All right, so the new features in Autodesk AEC collections, we're going to start off with 3D Studio Max. And everything that we do typically when it comes to new releases is always centered around, first and foremost, improving performance of the software. I mean, that's the biggest piece that we want to strive to get at, to make things faster, quicker, and easier for everybody to work in. So in this particular case, they did a lot of things in 3D Studio Max realm. One of those, as you can see here, is optimizing and make it 10 times faster for certain Mac scripts to work at. They did some great things with the creation of animation previews. They gave us a nice, better UI for that. And again, the output speed is a lot quicker. And then for us, for most of us that are just dealing in the Revit world or building world, they've done a lot of better improvements when it comes to our lighting analysis piece. They import the Revit model, convert it more accurately. And then this is a really nice one right here, that we don't have to upgrade our models to 2020 just to use the actual features in that. We can actually grab a Revit 2017, 18, or 19 model and bring it in to 2020 without having to update that. So that's a huge time saver. And if we are on projects that are on later versions, we don't have to worry about upgrading or downgrading, installing older software, and so forth. Over in the advanced steel side of things, they did a lot of work in usability, just making it more user-friendly interface to work with, better ribbon information for that. They've done some better contextual information, so they've done some nice things on their slide bars. So really what they've done in this particular release is take a step back and tweak and fix some of those glitchy things that we're having in our user interface. So you should have a better experience when it comes to that. This Propagating Steel Connections is a great little feature. We're going to actually see it live in the Revit side of things, if you will, but it also has a feature over in the CAD world, if you will, that if you have a connection that's pretty much similar all over the place, you can just right-click and populate that. And what Advanced Steel is going to do is look at those conditions and look at if it's similar, and will actually populate that area for you. Did some great enhancements to the labeling and text information within Advanced Steel. Great things for our documentation as well when it comes to our labels. And then they took a step back and they looked at how to incorporate some better cutting tools and titles and make it a little bit more easier workflow and manageable for that, if you will. So we've got some great things for when it comes to the view, cut view title, giving us a little bit more control on customizing the information within inside there. And this is kind of a nice little tool here. Basically, it's a new button and a new feature that allows us to align all of our bubbles to a reference plane. So you basically draw the reference plane and select the bubbles, and it lines them up. So our documentation is going to be, I won't say accurate, but it's going to be nice and pretty and lined up the way that we'd like to have it. AutoCAD has some great little features in it. I'm only pointing out 4 of the features that I liked. These are the ones that I've seen that we can definitely utilize. And the first one is going to be, I call it's the insert command, but as you look at the little box here, the panel, it's called blocks. And basically what they did is they combined the insert command of old and the design center piece of the blocks together as one thing. And so what we have now is the ability to look at the blocks in our current drawing, recently placed blocks, and then we go search for drawing files with blocks as well. But down at the bottom here, we have the inserting options where we can say, give me an insertion point, give me a scale, an angle, let me rotate it on the fly, Let me explode it on the fly. And then this is a user request that they added, and that basically is repeating this command or this insertion of the block as I go off and drag and drop it in. So we still have the drag and drop options. We have the click place option as well. So let's take a step back here and let's actually look at that piece of it. So you see here's my basic AutoCAD drawing. Doesn't look any different 2020 than what you would normally see here. So what we have again is our home or insert, annotation, tabs. We're going to go to the insert tab. And then right here you see the insert button. And I'm just going to go ahead and just pick that little drop down. You'll see the different blocks that are within inside of here. Those are the recently ones. And then I can hit this button right here, which will pop me into the dialog box. And the dialog box I can change to have bigger pictures, large pictures, medium pictures. You notice it's doing this on the fly without me having to pick anything. List in detail. I'm going to go back to my large. We do have the search to go search for toggle for more drawings if you wanted to as well. We have, here's all the blocks in my current drawing, and I can do a listing of different blocks as well. It's a typical panel, so we can collapse it, leave it up on the screen if we want. I'm going to pop over here to my drawings. And again, to place one, you can just drag and drop, just like Design Center. Or you can click it and do it. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to check on my rotate. I'm going to click it, and then I'm going to go and pick it and rotate it in place. I'm going to go ahead and say, let's do this repeating one. I'm going to go and check onto that. And then I'm just going to grab my chair, just single click it. I'm going to place it, rotate it, place it, rotate it. So you see that this workflow will help you tremendously as we're going off and placing block content. All right. All right, so the next one that we have is called Drawing Compare or DW Compare. This is something that came about in the 2019 release. They added that as a feature, and then what they've done in this release is fine-tune what it actually does. So if you're not familiar with Drawing Compare, basically you have your current drawing and then you compare it to an older version, and what it will do is show you what is different about those two. So you're seeing over here on the first part of the PowerPoint here, where's my mouse? There's my mouse, is these rooms right here are on the older drawing, and in the newer drawing, for whatever reason, they got deleted and this one got rotated. But over here in the compare side, it's let me know that the current, nothing changed in the current drawing. Here's the color for the current stuff, and then it's let me know where the area is that there's a problem or problems. And what's going to happen now is, and the big difference between the old version in 19 and the new version in 2020, is that any changes we make are real time. We're seeing that automatically happen as we go off and we make those changes. So we're seeing real highlighted real time, and any changes we make real time. And then of course we have this nice little bar up here that helps us out with configurations and so forth. The purge command has gone through a total redesign. And the idea behind this one is to make it easier for you to clean up your drawings as well as understand why you can't purge an item. So if we look at the dialog box here, what I'm seeing right now is basically the purgeable items. And we are able now to purge zero length geometry and empty text separately. So we can have them checked or not checked. We can do that. We have a nice little preview window to show you what is what you picked, basically, if you do a single pick and what's basically going to purge on that. And then there's a new tab here that's called Find Non-Purgeable Items, and there's a preview of that. So I have my chair picked. It's coming up with some possible reasons why I'm not able to purge it, and it's basically telling me that it's somewhere in the drawing. And if I go down to my details, it actually says that there's 64 of those in my drawing. So what I really could do is do a quick select using the quick select tool and quickly select the chair and find out where are those in my drawing. Now, if this was let's say a line type, let's say a dash line type, and it's not being used, I'm not allowed to purge it because it may be in a layer and that layer is not being used. So I'll first have to purge that information out before I can get rid of it. So it can tell you why you can't purge something. So that's a great reason and a great little feature for us. And I think this is my favorite. Quick measure. Quick measure allows us to graphically measure distance, angles, and it will throw up dimensions for us. So you're seeing on the screen here, when I move my mouse to, when I move my mouse to right here, I'm getting a distance of 6'6" and 8'4", but it also is throwing in dimensions for a couple little other areas as well. Whereas I come over here, it's not giving me the distances, but it is giving me the different dimensions and the angle. And the reason why it doesn't give me the distance is because those two objects have to be parallel. So these are parallel together with us. And then we'll see it when we do the presentation, is there's going to be a little perpendicular icon that kind of shows up to let you know that you're perpendicular and you should be seeing those dimensions. All right. All right, so back to my CAD here. I'm going to zoom over to here. All right, and then you're going to find the quick measure under the Home tab. And then over here, just like we would do a typical measure, it's the first button right there. So that's no longer the distance command. That's now the quick one. And so as soon as I pick my mouse and pick it, and I start moving things around, you can see that I'm getting distances as I go. And as I put down here, there's the one that I was getting earlier. If I pop on over here to, let's go back to my room here. There we go. And I can't move my mouse, but if you look at the top right corner of this room, you'll see a little box happening there that's letting me know that we're seeing perpendicular, and we should actually see dimensions happening in that area and distances. And then, of course, over here, this is really, really cool. As I move my mouse around to different things, I get a little closer to that angle. It shows me the angle. It gives me distances for everything. This is just a phenomenal thing. I wish kind of Revit had this piece without having to pick anything. This is a great tool. All right. Now off to Revit. The programmers, when they get together and they set their mapping up for what they're going to do this year, the next 5 years, they have these things called what we call buckets. And this year's buckets have to do with connect, create, and optimize. And so what they have is these categories, and that's where they're looking at to improve and or create new functionality. So one of the first ones you're going to see right off the bat is PDFs under the connection option. There's a lot of cloud-based stuff that we have. We do support now SketchUp release 2018 for importing and linking. Under the create side of things, there's a whole slew of things that we can bring in. For the structural folks, you're going to notice again reinforcement, steel connections, and so forth. Under the optimize thing, we have a whole bunch of things we won't get into, like material improvements. They've done a couple things there. They've given us the ability to copy and paste legends across sheets. Huge thing. So a lot of things happening on that one. So let's dive into it, and let's start talking about that PDF. So what can we do with a PDF? So it's a background. So I can do a bunch of things with just bringing in and basically inserting a PDF. It fully supports our BIM 360 workflow, and it enables us to snap to it to add geometry into the view. When we bring in the PDF, it's view specific, so it's only going to show up in the view that you bring it in. You do have the ability to bring in multiple sheets, if you will. So you notice on the pretty picture here, it's got sheet number 2 of 3, and you can see that we have 1 and 3, so that number 2 is selected. We have the ability to set up the resolution that we're bringing it in, and we can always go back and re-update that and change that information. get into Revit here. So this is basically just a blank template. And what I want to do is just bring that in. So I'm going to pop over here to the Insert tab. And it's over here on the Import section. We wanted to go ahead and do a PDF. Pops you up, allows you to browse for what you want. You notice there's really nothing here to that. We're just grabbing the PDF, and then we open. And then we get the box that pops up and says, okay, well, what I'm seeing right now is just one view, but it could be one of 10. So it tells me how many total I have. If I have a whole bunch of different things within that, different views, then I can come over here and just toggle over there, and I can pick my different views that I wanted from that list. It only brings in one at a time, but we can always come back and grab this as we need it. And then, of course, there's going to be our resolution here that we can bring it in as well. So I'm pretty happy with what I have. I'm just going to go ahead and just insert that, place it where I want to place it, and then there it is. There's my PDF background. So if we look at this in a typical Revit user fashion, what are the properties of this? So over here in the properties and the instance parameters, we've got width and height, we've got the scale, we can lock it in position, we have enabling snap, which we'll get into in a bit. If we look at the edit type option, we have the ability to say what page number it is, what's the width, height, what's our resolution. So nothing here is changeable in this box, but we can actually change it in another place. So this is just giving us, well, what is this? This is number 10 of 15. Okay, so that gives me an idea of what's happening there. So if I want to go off and adjust things, if I zoom up a little closer, it's kind of blurry because that was the resolution I brought it in at. So if I want to adjust that resolution, what I can do is I can pick it and I can hit Manage Image, or I can come over to the Insert and hit Manage Image as well. Apparently I have some stuff that needs to be installed. Look at that. And I'll go ahead and insert Manage Image. And I just have the one in my model, but you can see that this is going to be a whole slew of things that we can look at. We have the ability to add. So if this was brought in as 1 and I want to grab number 2 of 3, add allows me to grab that and grab 2 of 3. If I want to change the resolution, I'm going to go ahead and hit Reload From, grab it again and just say Open, and it gets me back into that first box that allows me to go off in. And again, I could grab different ones. But if I grab different ones here, I'm changing, in a sense, that to something else versus adding. And here what I only want to do is just boost that up to 150, say OK, and OK. And you can see that it got a little clear for us. And now the reason why I wanted to do that is because the next thing I want to do is trace on top of this. And so what I'm going to do is go ahead and hit Enable Snaps here, but I could also do it over here in the checkbox. It's basically kind of one and the same. Okay. And what I want to do is come up over here to Architecture. I'll use Model Lines right now. I'm going to switch this over to Fat Lines so everybody can see it. Get a little closer here. And I'm going to use the Pick tool. And I'll just start picking on this piece of furniture. And now I'm actually just doing lines based upon that information. Take it a step further and add some modeling geometry. And pop over here to the Architecture tab, grab Walls. I want to do a 6-inch generic wall. I want to use the finish face, or one of the faces I should say. And I'm going to use the Pick tool. And then all I need to do is pick on that wall. And I've just drawn that wall. So I'm basically tracing on top. And if I pick wrong, of course, I could always just flip that. So remember, this is the same workflow at this point that I would be doing if this was an AutoCAD background. Be able to trace on top of those things with real Revit information. All right. Elliptical walls. This is it's been a wish list for I want to say quite some time, at least on my end. If you're not familiar with this workflow, in the past there was no ellipse; it was a circle. What you see on the draw panel is all you got. And so if I wanted to do an elliptical type of a building, I would have to create a mass using the massing tools and basically just draw that mass X, Y, Z, and then I would use the massing tools to place a wall on that mass. And if the building changed size, or the wall changed heights or locations, then I would have to go back, edit the mass, make that mass higher or smaller, if you will, and then re-update the actual walls that I assigned to it. So there's a huge workflow involved when it comes to that, and that workflow just went out the building now, and we have an elliptical wall information we can change. They also, the nice ability is that we can switch from a generic wall to a complex wall to a curtain wall, and all the things are going to work for us. So behavior-wise, it's just a wall. So wall joins, openings, family hosting, all of those work as expected. Here's that steel connection that Advanced Steel has that they brought over as part of the Revit feature as well. And again, it's grabbing something that exists, modeled, and looking for the same set of framing conditions and populating that information all over. So think about how long it would take you just on this pretty picture to model here, here, and here all at that time. It just does it for us. So I got a little video I'll walk you through here, but basically you click onto it and you just right-click on the menu, and it's going to populate that for us. So watch the screen again, just right-click in, connects, and it just does that for you. So think about the time saving that we're having and coming across that. And in typical Revit fashion, if I need to change an instance of that, that's simple by grabbing that instance, right-clicking it, grabbing all the existing ones in this viewing case, and then swapping those out. And so think about how long it took us to really do that. And you can see in just a matter of minutes, we've got all of our connections happening. So we've just saved a tremendous amount of time going there. And of course, what would a update of Revit be on the structural side without something to do with reinforcement? So there's a whole bunch of reinforcement. I'm just going to highlight a couple here. One of this has been on kind of on my wish list for quite some time, and that's basically copying the information around. And what it's going to do is keep the consistency with it now. So if you have a bar that's sloping or angling at some case and we're copying that around, it's going to keep that concrete, or excuse me, keep that cover information around. So it's going to be increased precision for our fabrication drawings that we need to do. And then of course, another one, what would a Revit version update be without something going on with stairs? In this case, what they did was put it over on the structural side of things, and anything that we do as far as model and place stairs, we are now allowed and able to add reinforcement to that. So think about that workflow and how you would do that without this. This was very tough in the old days to do, and now it's some picks and clicks, and we're getting that to go. I don't want to forget my Mips people. A handful of improvements on the MEP side of things. One of those is our Homerun wiring improvements. So they've done three things. It enables you to tailor your arrows to suit your graphical preferences. It enables you to control over the conditions and how Homerun arrows are going to show up in multiple circuit wiring. And then, of course, enables you to control the multi-circuit home runs. And I'm going to go ahead and pop in another video here and let Kelsey talk to you about that.
This release provides more control over the display of home runs. There are user-definable home run arrow styles, which enables you to tailor your single and multi-circuit home run arrows to your standards. The bottom line is that these improvements will improve your productivity and efficiency when documenting your electrical designs.
Excellent. All right. So in 2019, they gave us this filtering tool update where it gives us the ability to do and or type of statements. And what they've done in 2020 is increased our ability to do more things. So they created more types of parameters and categories that we can do, and grab some extended parameter information that we can do. So if you haven't played with that, definitely get into and look at the different types of and or statements that you can do. One of my favorites in the architectural side of things is we have furniture categories, but we also have furniture system categories. That was really tough to be able to do something in visibility graphics for that back in the old days, but now that's and or, grab me this and this. So it allows me to do a bunch of little nice little features like that. I think this is another long time in coming to be able to tag, schedule, create view filters for elevation. So I can tag an elevation's height in the plan view. I can create filter and rules for that as well. And of course I can schedule it. So I can actually get that in the schedule. Parts are kind of near and dear to my heart. I like the parts tool, and in this case what they've added is the functionality to create parts based upon direct shape geometry or InfraWorks information. So remember InfraWorks from our earlier conversation, this is an InfraWorks bridge that was brought in, and we're allowed to basically create parts of that. So I can take this image right here, if you will. This right here would be a single part, but this right here, we would actually split that up and divide it with the parts tools. So great functionality for that. And then in the architectural side of things, this is probably one of my favorite tools that came out, and it's a path of travel tool. And this is used to determine the shortest distance between 2 points in a floor plan. So this tool will analyze the geometry in the plan view and go around obstacles like furniture and go through doors because we need to get out of the room. And so in the bottom line in this particular one is we can now gain a better insight on our spatial relationships and how things go. So think about this particular picture, the nurse's station and the travel to get to certain areas. All right, so we'll do this one live. All right, so I'm going to zoom up a light here. So you can see that I've got a couple rooms here that don't have anything. And I'm going to come over here to my Analyze tab. I'm going to grab Path of Travel. And I'm going to go ahead and pick right here and then snap right to there. And it just automatically says, okay, best travel is to go around that room. And this one is just phenomenal. Let me grab that right in there, and again, I'm going to snap it over here to the stairs. And it just goes around all of that information to get out of here. Now, you notice that on my screen, I have two different colors happening. I've got a red and a green happening. And if you notice, the red ones are the ones that are farther out. Well, what I have is I have a filter condition to show me this information. So if I come over here to my visibility graphics, and I pop over here to filters, I've got a path of travel filter that's giving me my red color. So if I go and let's go look at this filter here, you can see that I have the path of travel filter. What it actually is a line. It's a path line. So we're grabbing that one, and what I'm doing is grabbing the parameter length, and I'm saying show me anything that is above, greater than 127 feet, give me that as red. So if I go off and I say, let me cancel this real quick. So there's the red there. Let me cancel that. And you can see that all of these right here are kind of greenish. So if I go back and I edit this, and I change that to 100 feet 0, and say OK, just make sure I kept it, and then OK all the way out. And apply it. It didn't change. Actually, when I zoomed in, it changed automatically for me. Now, if it doesn't change, we have a option right here, once I pick it, to update that. So it should change automatically for us. And of course, Revit being Revit, of course we have a schedule, and that schedule has a whole bunch of things on it. But here's my line style. I'm using the detail lines. What level am I finding it on? What's the length? where's my speed? Based upon my speed length, it's going to take me 11, 12-ish seconds to get out. And then what's the view? Now, this particular Revit model actually has design options. And so in this particular view, this is the primary design option there, and that's why you're seeing that design option 2 versus the actual name of the view. So looking at that, if we go back and look at some of the properties that we have, if we come over here to the path of travel, remember in Revit, that little button means more stuff, and usually it means settings. Here's our settings for what we're doing. So we're saying ignore the doors. So if I run through a door, I'm okay with that. So that's why it's going through the doors, is because we're ignoring that. We're not ignoring furniture, because that would be, we want to be jumping over furniture to get out of it, hopefully. But as you go down the list here, a whole bunch of stuff happening there. And then you've got your zones as far as your height and your bottom for that. And then we have, if you want to see what's going on, you got a little quick link there to get you into the web page and to show you what we're talking about as far as all this information. So taking this into account, the next thing I want to do is I actually want to change this one from whatever this closet, I'm going to say closet over here, to this space. So I'm going to pick it, and I'm actually going to use the rotate command to rotate it, is what I'm going to do, from that corner right there to there. And I'm going to rotate it up into this room. Now we'll see how well I did there, if it's going to like it. So I have it picked, and I'm going to just say, go ahead and update that. And it looks like I'm just inside the table. So being inside the table, it automatically just went off and did then, sticking in the green there. If I was on the table, I would get an error message saying, yeah, you're running into something. And so you got to get out of there. All right. Okay. So there's a lot of stuff that we didn't cover as far as the Revit side goes, but there's just so much that we can only do in the hour. So keep this in mind here. I'm missing some of the MEP stuff, so go take a gander at that. But we did do the panel. So they did something also in the mechanical world with some ducting and stuff. So we want to look at that. There's that material piece of it. Of course, a whole bunch of different rebar information. They did a lot of annotation pieces for that as well. And let's move on. All right. So Autodesk licensing options. So I don't know about Katana. I know she got one call on this one, and I was on the road. I got many calls on this one. And the biggest question that we had was, what? Did the licensing change? And the answer truly is no. Kind of, no. So if you're going from 2019 to 2020, it's the same thing. There's nothing going on differently. There's no smoke and mirrors behind it or anything to that nature. It's the same. The only difference is, and the reason why there's a but, is because every time that there's a new release of software for networking, or as we call it today, multi-user, there's a new LMN tools that you have to install for that. And so the latest LMN tools for 2020 is 11.6.2.0. If you don't know where to get that, here's the link to that. Basically just autodesk.com/licensed tools, and that'll pop you over here to get into the web page here. That'll pop you over here to, come on, there we go, to this page that you can actually download it right from there. Okay, so that's really the big difference between that, and that's a never-ending difference. But I want to take a step back and talk about, you know, these naming conventions that we've had that's old versus new. So we have what we call standalone. That's been around forever. That's a single user license. And the new functionality, where it's a new seat, rental or subscription, it's called a single user. In the older days, we also had what we would call a multi-seat standalone. And what we used to do back in the old days is I've got 50 different licenses with 50 different serial numbers because they're all standalone. But I didn't really want to install all of that all over the place. So I just reused that serial number and the product key. And then all of a sudden, licensing compliancy happened, and you had to go to the internet to register and all that good stuff. And so they created this thing called a multi-seat standalone with one serial number that you are allowed to install X amount of times that you purchased. Well, that's now gone because we're all doing the single user interface, and we're all going through subscription and the Autodesk Manage website to download and do that. Network is now called multi-user. Okay, so there is no really called network, but if you talk to a salesperson or a tech, we're going to know when you say network, what you really mean is multi-user. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward, but it gets confusing when you're on what we will call the maintenance and you haven't updated to subscription yet. So if you go from 2019 maintenance to 2020 maintenance, it's the same as far as installation goes, the same type of routine. Nothing's really changed, or nothing has changed there. So if I want to install my products, I'm going to go to the manage.autodesk.com website, log in, and start the install process. So when I logged into my account, I'm going to pop on over here to all products and services, and then it gives me my listing of what I have. So you can filter it by types, versions, platforms, and languages. And I have 64 products and services that I could do. And again, rendering to the cloud would be considered to be a service. Once I go to the one that I want, I just click on that, opens it up, and it shows me the different products that I have been assigned that I can actually install based upon my user information that the license coordinators provided for me. If I don't see it on the list, then I just pick View All Products, and then it will show me the stuff that I can do. So you notice that 17 is not on this list, but I can actually install 2017 and do that from there. Now, if I want to install 2016, I can't because it's not on this list, and in that case, I have to get an exception through Autodesk to say, can I actually install that? Because we have a project we're working on that needs to be on that. And it's a hoops and bounds you go through on the Autodesk side of things. If you have a network license that's already got 16, I believe everything's good to go. But if it's a standalone, you have to get permission. Or if you don't have a network license for that, you have to get permission, because we're looking at 4 releases down at this point. Now, when it comes to installing, I did some investigating with our support team, and I got the rundown on how do you want to and what is the best practice way to install your software through this. And to be honest with you, the start, I didn't realize this is what you would do. I did all 3. I got a brand new machine last week, and I've installed everything, and I went through all 3 of these different ones. I have a pretty good fast connection at home where I was doing it, and I didn't run into any issues whatsoever. But what they're telling us is best practice would be to use the download now. And as you can see, that is the fastest way to do it. The second one would be the browser download, which is the slowest. And then the last way, if all fails, you do the install now. Now, the reason behind the 1 and 2 is simply because you're downloading it so it's on your system at this point. If you're a single user like I am and I don't have a network license to worry about, I can do the install now. But if I have issues when it comes to I'm going to have to uninstall it and reinstall it, and I got some of those things, I'm going to have to go back and hit this button again to reinstall. Whereas if I have it downloaded, I just have to go to the setup on my computer and run it from there. So I don't have to worry about being connected to the internet to reinstall my software. So that is why download now first, browser download, and then install now. And again, if I'm going to take this download to multiple machines, I don't want to do one of the downloads because I don't want to go to each machine and hit the internet for all these machines. If you have issues with installing your product, have you talked to AVA yet, which stands for Autodesk Virtual Agent? I did a couple picks and clicks on her when she first came out, and then as this is virtual, so basically what happens is this is a learning thing. So as things happen, you get better and better and better and better. This has been a great little tips and tricks and places to go when you need to get answers quickly. And of course, you can always just ping our support team, as we're here to match it. All right. So last thing before we kind of open up for questions, just want to give you the breadth of our group, and my group I should say, for the consulting side of things, where not only do we do the software sales, but we do a lot of implementations. If you have a model, we do health checking on models. We do strategic process reviews on departments and as well as entire companies. Of course, we do content creation, we do custom training, and there's a whole bunch more. So I will pass it over to Katana for the remainder of the time, and we'll do some Q&A.
Thank you, Eugene. We do have a couple of questions so far, most of them on Revit. But anybody out there that has any other questions, please feel free to add them to the Q&A box or the chat box. First one, does the PDF import work with raster documents or just PDFs made in Vector?
Raster documents, that's a great question. It will bring in a raster one, but you're not allowed to snap to that. So that snapping feature that allows me to trace on top of the PDF has to be a vector-based one.
That's great, because that was the second question. Next, for Revit 2020, electrical, will you be able to click on the electrical wiring and annotate the text on the view?
I believe so, but I would like to get one of my MEP techs to really answer that question, because I am not the MEP guy. So can we save that one? And we'll
yes, I'll save that one for you.
Excellent.
Next, is the path of travel feature only for occupant paths, or can it be used to detect shortest paths for other things, such as supply air from a unit to a piece of air distribution through ductwork?
That's a great question. I'm going to say right now it's going to be for occupancy because of the height. So I guess we could, let me pop back over here real quickly to Revit. So I guess we could, in a sense, because it's really just analyzing a path of travel, but what we would have to do is figure out, in this area, what are we excluding to run through? And then, of course, it also be related to above and below. So in a sense, we could, if we have the range correctly.
Thank you.
That'd be one that we probably want to test too. I think we throw that over to their MEP folks to test.
I'll save that one for you as well. Next one, for Dwg Compare, does that only work in model space, or can you compare layout tabs in separate drawings?
I'm going to say layout tabs as well. So it's really looking at the geometry that is actually in the information. So that's one that we can quickly bring up here. So if I bring up my sample plan here, I go to layout, save it. Okay, and that's sample one. And open up I guess it doesn't really matter. That one. Go to layout. And then go to collaborate, compare, and we want to compare with sample one. It actually switches over to model space to compare. Very cool.
Great. Next question, can you create different line paths of travel, for different code requirements and schedule those separately?
I'm not sure on that one. So when we create the path, yes. So what you're doing is you're adding another line style, because that's really what it is a line style. And you should be able to have multiple line styles to switch. So I just switched that over to a different line style, and let's do this. And so there's the thin line. So what you would be doing is sorting or filtering out based upon the line style. It's still going to give you, since you're using the path of travel, you're still using that functionality. It's just the basic style of line that you're using. And then you can filter in the filter box here in the schedule. in the filter section of the schedule, you can say, let's sort by that. That's equal to, and I would do a name here or something of that nature. So actually it would be line style, but it looks like you can filter that out.
Right.
And it's and one more thing on that one, and it's per view. So the path of travel is only showing up in the current view. It doesn't show up as a model element. It's a detail lined element, so it shows up in the current view only. Next question.
Okay. Do the Revit 2020 lighting analysis feature improvements include photometric calculations, or will we still need a third-party plugin for these calculations?
That is a great question, and that is way beyond my knowledge. So let's get our Max person on that one.
Okay. Back to the Dwg Compare question. Since it switched to model space, does that mean any notes or annotations in paper space are not included in the comparing of these drawings?
I would probably say that would be accurate. So if I were to get out of my compare feature, there we go. So it switched me over there. So if I had anything in here, let's go put in some annotation. It's a very big high, 6 inches. Okay. Oh, it's in my way. Let's say that one. Nope, it's not comparing the model space, or I shouldn't say it's not comparing the layout space information.
Can you use Navisworks Simulate with your AEC collection license?
Not quite sure what the question is. So if you have AEC collections, you have Navisworks Manage. So the difference between Simulate and Manage is that Simulate doesn't have any of the classic textures or timeline tools. It's just really just kind of a viewer. So if you're asking, if I have a 2020 Simulate, can I still use that? And the answer is yes. So I think I need a little more clarification on the question.
Okay. That's all the questions we have right now. If you have any other questions, you can send them on over to us. We'd be happy to answer them. And this webcast was recorded. We'll send you all a copy of it in a few days, and it'll also be posted to our YouTube site.
Nice. And folks, if you need to get a chat with me, my email address is right down here. It's very simple, eoday@rand.com. I want to thank everybody for joining us today, and everybody have a great weekend.